So, you want to learn how to play Infinity from Corvus Belli? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Infinity Institute from the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra, and in this series we're going to get you going with the basics of Infinity N5. The aim is that whichever army pack, two-player box, essential set, or starter set you pick up, you'll be able to follow along and learn the game. If you're planning to introduce new players or are considering becoming a Warcore, one of the official Infinity demo team, then feel free to use this as a basis for your own process. In this first video, we're going to look at the very simple ideas around the system. Let's start with what is Infinity. If you've not seen it, I do wonder why you're on this video, but it is a 35mm skirmish sci-fi war game which uses 20-sided dice, or D20s. The 35mm means that an average miniature in the game is 35mm tall. Skirmish means that you will usually be playing with 10 to 15 miniatures on the table, with a limit of 15 per side in the rules. Interestingly, as you go up to bigger pointed games, you may not see more miniatures on the table. Instead, you may see scarier, bigger, and tougher units appear. Unlike a lot of war games, Infinity has mechanics which ensure that you're always involved in the game when you're playing. There's no sitting back waiting for your opponent to have their turn, just rolling saves. You can impact what they do, even killing their troopers during their own turn. It makes the game very dynamic and intense to play. The game is usually played on a 4-foot by 4-foot table with quite a lot of terrain, to be honest, so you're going to be making cities here. A standard game is 300 points and will last around 2 to 2.5 hours for newer players. Some veterans can get a full game done in 1.5 hours, but don't expect to be doing that on day 1 or day 101. The game has an active competitive scene with a global tournament program called the Infinity Tournament System, run by the game's manufacturer Corvus Belli. ITS has annual seasons where the game narrative moves forward and we get new rules and missions in theory. The ITS missions are free, as are the rules of the game and the quick start rules, and the Infinity Army Builder. Corvus Belli likes to give these stuff away so you can spend more money on miniatures, which is, let's be honest, the fun stuff. Okay, that's the basics of Infinity, what it is. Let's talk about the best way to learn it. Infinity, at first look, can be an intimidating beast. Now on its 5th edition, hence N5, the rulebook is a chunky tome rammed with skills, weapons, programs, abilities, states, and much more besides. Then there's the factions, 11 core factions with up to 3 sub-factions each, leading to 38 core options for you to pick from, each stuffed with multiple troop types who each have different loadouts, weapons, and skills. It is a lot. I've been teaching people to play Infinity for about 11 years now, and the most common mistake new players make is diving into the full rules day 1. I've seen some serious wargaming veterans do that and end up getting chewed up and spat out. Infinity is deep. If you don't respect that, you have a good chance of drowning. It's why you'll often hear how complicated the game is. If you try to go from 0 to 1,000 miles per hour in one step, it's gonna leave a mark. In my experience, the key to success with Infinity is to take your time learning core concepts. You see, there are mechanics and concepts that form the basis of this system. If you learn those, commit them to heart, then the system starts to make much more sense. It becomes much more intuitive. There are certain actions which you'll do over and over again, which if you can get them down to almost muscle memory, Infinity becomes a lot easier and a lot more straightforward. This series of 10 introduction videos will strip back Infinity to core principles, then start building on those core principles to give you a good overall foundation of the system. So, what are we going to cover? Our next video is a very brief overview of the factions, a bit about their lore and playstyles. If you're not sure which army is for you, this may help point you in the right direction. After that, we're on to some concepts and profiles. This will introduce core ideas, terms, and will walk you through reading a unit's profile, which is essential to understanding the game. Finally, thankfully, we're into games. This will be video 4, and we'll look at the basics of the system and walk you through playing your first games. This is probably one of the most important videos, as it will be the foundation of everything you need to know, and it will also contain some of the things that players, even veterans, frequently do wrong. Next is adding in the concepts of camo, mimetism, and discover as a skill. Here you'll see how the rules expand by adding to that foundation and mixing in exceptions to the foundation. Next, it's time to get physical with video 6, and we're going to look at movement skills and concepts of dynamic movement in the game. We'll also take a look at close combat, the specialists with those up-close ninja skills. Start to open the game up in the next video with the addition of specialists, hacking, fire teams, coordinated orders, and command tokens. This will also include the speedball mechanic. Video 8 comes next, and we'll discuss starting a game. So missions, pre-game admin, the roll-off, decision making, and deployment. Number 9 is going to be tips, tricks, and basic tactics. Here you'll learn how to split pies whilst getting your guided on. Trust me, it'll all make sense by the end of that video. Last but by no means least, video 10 will discuss where you go next. It will include some suggestions of what you can add into your next games to build on this foundation and expand your knowledge of the system. The truth is, when you have that foundation in place, when you can do the core concepts without thinking too much about it, then you start to learn the nuances of the game. You start to get comfortable and develop your skills and knowledge. So we'll point you in the direction with the last video. That'll be the end of this run of videos, but then the Institute will continue with lots more stuff, including setting up tables, list writing, playing at tournaments, everything you'll need to know to get the most out of your hobby time with Infinity. Speaking of, if you want to get the most of this series, there will be a set of downloadable resources available to our channel members and subscribers. The videos themselves will be free here on YouTube, but if you want cheat sheets and support when you're playing the game, then consider supporting the channel. It costs less than a coffee. Now, who's ready to get started? Let's dive into the lore and factions in our next video.